Another one we would like to cover on is Amazon Robotics.
Oh, yeah.
FTA recently received a brief from Amazon Australia. What's that all about?
I'm not an expert on robotics.
Okay.
Not an expert on AI, but obviously all of this is the future going forward. Look, some time ago we looked at just e-commerce in general, and we could see it was going to be a growing thing. So one of our team members some time ago said, "Paul, we really need to get into the e-commerce space, and we need to get these big players on board." And I go, the likes of Amazon and Alibaba and eBay, they're not going to get involved with us. Anyway, but just to prove that anything is possible if you give it a go, we pitched to them, and we're now running an e-commerce reference group for those three organisations, for Amazon, Alibaba and eBay.
Wow.
We're a platform there where we read out the competition law at every meeting, so there's no discussion about pricing or competition or the like. It's really just looking at common issues affecting those parties, with a particular focus on the cross-border, the border and biosecurity elements of their business.
Right.
But it's great to be able to work with them and just to see some of the initiatives that they're doing. I suppose Alibaba and eBay are different because they're really just a marketplace, but Amazon
is its own logistics.
It's its own incredible organisation of its own.
So Amazon is probably our industry, when I say our industry, the traditional freight forwarding industry's biggest threat.
Yeah.
I view them as that, yeah.
And there's other threats, as well, besides what Amazon are doing. Yeah. You've got, no one's sticking to their knitting these days. So, you're seeing more and more that the shipping lines are acquiring freight forwarders and getting involved in freight forwarding.
Yes.
And got airlines now and doing their own air freight. Even the stevedores are getting more and more into the landside logistics and not just loading and unloading ships. And it's all a threat. But again, that's commerce. Yes. As long as they're not taking any unfair commercial advantage, and again, we're very focused on that and working with the ACCC on that to make sure, we did see some circumstances during the pandemic where freight capacity was at a real premium, where some of the shipping lines were suggesting the only way you're going to importers, the only way you're going to get space on the ship is if you give us your customs clearance, your forwarding, your...
That's right. They want the whole box and dice.
That's not allowed. And we're working very closely with the ACCC to ensure that that is done fairly. Yeah. If there's going to be vertical integration and they can deliver benefits, that's great, but it's got to be done in a legitimate way.
Yes.
So there are a whole lot of threats out there, but again, that's a part of our role as well, is to make sure it's within legal boundaries and to help, almost like a watchdog for the watchdog.
Well, I think, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Because these companies, these massive behemoth of companies have so much power in their hands and so much cash due to the COVID years.
Yeah.
Like from everyday users like you and I, they wield great power. They're buying things left, right and centre. They're growing this way, that way, every which direction. And for them to easily just, like you said, you see use us for all, or we make the markets in such a way that it's no longer financially viable to use anything outside of umbrella. Yeah. It's so easy for them to do that. And it's kind of scary to think of that. So voices such as yourself is critical. It's critical to safeguard that space.
And it is. But again, freight forwarders are generally pretty smart as well. And they do have the advantage of being nimble. They're not locked in generally to one shipping line. They can move from line to line. And they do still offer that flexibility. And then normally have the expertise on the cross-border requirements, the local domestic. As you know, it's not an easy task. And, I quite often look at it and go, it's a miracle cargo still comes in and out of the country. And it's largely due to the professionalism of freight forwarding companies.
We've never had too much of a luxury not to carve out ingenious ways of survival. Right? Because as a freight forwarder, if you look at the entire supply chain, we're probably the most vulnerable party in it all, right? What keeps us relevant is our service. What keeps us relevant is our nimbleness, like you've mentioned, for us to pivot, right? because we don't own the boats, we don't own the planes and what have you, and a lot of the, dealing with the truckers and going to the terminals, all of these are beyond our control. So in that environment, we've really had to carve out a successful relationship of how to deal with these parties, at the same time not let these parties dictate too much of what we do as an entity, because each and every one of these parties can easily swallow up what we do.
Yeah.
Because if you really think what we do is putting heads on it and giving that service.
Yeah.
Right. Any of these fixed asset party can do it. So shipping lines are trying, buying forwarders, right? Going to and buying airlines now and so forth. Having spoken to some of the individuals or groups of individuals in these, behemoth areas or what have you, or entities or threats, their drive is really, I fear, is going to a place where it's going to become rather bleak from anyone who's looking for service, in a traditional sense of service. All of these big companies are, in my personal opinion, are scaling up in such a way they want to commoditize everything. Make the entire process of moving shipment just like an arbitrary experience. There's no longer any type of relationship building. They don't want any of that. They want to really suck that out and be all online based. People go online, typing something, click, 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 price, move, go. Right? Really taking that human element out of it. And that's the freight forwarder.
Yeah.
So that's a threat, massive threat. And
It's a threat, but it's only a threat if it works. Again, I'm a bit older than you, and I'm a bit more old-fashioned with things, but I'm okay with, if I go to a website and I have to use, an online help or a bot or whatever it is, I'm okay with it, as long as it's easy to use and it works.
Yes.
As soon as it's not easy to use or it doesn't work, I'm going, who can I ring? Where can I ring on this? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, logistics is not straightforward. And you still do need the human element and the human skill to be able to navigate through, whether it's the whole cartage and transport operation, whether it's the cross-border, whether it's biosecurity, and like biosecurity is a nightmare, but in some ways it's a blessing because it is so difficult and complicated that you can't just automate it. It still is a requirement.